We are honored to welcome Brother Scott Altman. He is Senior Vice President of Civil Programs at ASRC Research and Technology Solutions, where he is responsible for operational management and leadership of NASA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and the Federal Aviation Administration programs. Altman has been ASRC for about 7 years. Prior to that, he was an astronaut for 15 years at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. A veteran of 4 space flights, he has logged more than 51 days in space. He was the pilot on 2 missions and mission commander on another 2. He served as shuttle branch chief for the astronaut office and lead for the cockpit avionics upgrade and chief of the exploration branch of the astronaut office. Prior to becoming an astronaut, Altman was a U.S. Navy pilot. He has received the Defense Superior Service Medal, the Legion of Merit, and the Distinguished Flying Cross, among other honors. Brothers, please welcome Scott Altman.
Well, it really is an honor for me to be here tonight speaking with you all, and also a little humbling as I look back to my life and reflect on the journey that brought me to be here tonight, and how much of the values and the camaraderie, the brotherhood that I learned as my part of Sigma Chi, that I carry with me each and every day, has been important to my life and the foundation of all the success that I ever had in my career. So to tell you about that, let me just start with my journey. So I began when I was 3 years old. I watched this TV show, Sky King, on TV. Not many people remember it now, but the guy was a pilot who flew around doing things, and I turned to my mom and dad and I said, I want to be a pilot. And they said, you can do anything you want as long as you do your best and don't give up. So I studied hard in high school, played basketball, and wanted to go to the Air Force Academy. Because growing up in Illinois, not many oceans, I didn't know about the Navy. So I actually got an appointment to the Air Force Academy, and here I am, 17 years old, everything's going right in my life, until I take the pre-induction physical. My blood pressure's fine, my vision's fine. They measure my sitting height and say, Altman, you're too tall to be a pilot. And, so just imagine that crushing disappointment when you think everything's going my way until all of a sudden it's not. And I had to figure out what was next. And it's my greatest disappointment, but in many ways it's the best thing that ever happened to me, because it set the stage for me to go to the University of Illinois and study engineering. So while I'm at Illinois, I'd kind of come into the college life a little behind because I thought I was going to the Air Force Academy. And then, so I didn't go through Rush, but an uncle of a girlfriend of mine was a legacy, called the chapter, they called me, I got invited over, and it was just like, wow. The people who were there at the fraternity, the camaraderie they had, the friendship, the diversity at the same time, I wanted to be like them. I wanted to model myself after them. They were my role models. So I pledged, and it's just been an incredible relationship ever since. The friendship, justice, and learning, the cornerstones of what we believe in, the role models with the juniors and seniors that I looked up to, people I wanted to emulate. And then later on, as I moved through the chapter, although I never felt like I was as good as the guys who came before me, but I wanted to do my best for the ones who came after me. Learned so much about teamwork, working with other people, bringing diverse folks together, that I would say the lessons I learned at Sigma Chi were the biggest part of what made me successful in the rest of my life. Now, I was a pledge and then an active, and then when I was after my junior year, I went to Pensacola and trained with the Navy, and felt like I was a pledge again, except the Magisters were not as nice down there when they were Marine drill instructors, and they definitely didn't have any rules about hazing. And I found that in my career that I kind of reinvent myself over time. You're always kind of going back to that days as a pledge and then figuring things out and then starting over again. I flew with the Navy, the F-14 Tomcat, just a tremendous airplane, loved flying that airplane. This is my picture of my first shot at international relations, you could say. It was during the Cold War. The Russians had live missiles and bombs on their aircraft. I had live missiles on mine. It was kind of a game, but at the same time, you knew it could get ugly at any time. And it's just an interesting perspective to go from where I was then to then later with NASA. Well, I got back from my first cruise, and the word was the movie guys are in town. Movie Top Gun, which is actually an old movie. Anybody remember the movie Top Gun? All right. Well, it was an awful lot of fun to fly in. That's a picture of me that's actually came out of the movie, and you can tell because I'm sitting way up high in the cockpit that that's me and not Tom Cruise, because he is somewhat vertically challenged. I will tell you my 3 things about Tom Cruise. 1, very respectful. He paid attention when we were briefing him. He listened to the briefs. He actually got so excited about flying that after the movie, he became a private pilot. And so now he owns a P-51 and I don't. But the other thing is, I mentioned he is a little vertically challenged. And the final thing, although his publicist asked me not to say this anymore, he did fill his air sickness bag in my back seat. But this is one of the scenes that I flew of, speaking of keeping up international relations, because if you watch the movie really closely, there's a spot where the 2 airplanes are actually inverted on top of each other, and then there's this shot, which you couldn't get the canopies that close together in real flight, but they wanted to get it for the movie, so they had me fly along straight and level, filmed me while I was acting inverted, and then put it in the movie like this. But what it means is, I can tell you 100% when you watch the movie, that's my finger. One of the other things I got to do that you don't normally do as a Navy guy is buzz the tower. You know, if you really were like Maverick and you said, okay, Goose, it's time to buzz the tower, when you landed, a little staff car would drive up and a guy would get out and rip your wings off and send you home. But because they wanted it for the movie, they said, would you mind buzzing the tower? I was like, yeah. Then they said, we want to make sure we get it, so we would like to do 9 takes. Would that be all right? I was like, yeah. I was pretty good at it by the 9th take, I'll tell you. So that was a lot of fun. So this is Tom Cruise's hero pose. I have to go back and show mine. So from there, I went to test pilot school and then became a test pilot and dropped bombs off the F-14. But while I was at test pilot school, we took a field trip, and one of the places we went was Houston, where I met actual astronauts, and I realized 2 things that I didn't know before. The first was that astronauts are actually real people, I had thought they were just some other species that was up on the TV, but I met guys who had had a career a lot like mine, and that led to the second thing I realized: I really want to do this. So I applied to NASA, went down and interviewed, which is a week-long physical, basically, where you get to see yourselves from all different angles you'd rather not, and then go home and wait for the call. And there was this guy named Don Putty, and the word was if he called you, you were in. If another astronaut called you, you were out. So I get the call, I'm like, okay, who's it gonna be? And he goes, hello, Scott, this is Don Putty. And I'm thinking, I'm in. And then he goes, I'm sorry to have to tell you this, you're out. I'm like, no! So up and down. But I knew it was what I wanted to do, so I went back to the fleet, did another cruise, actually got called for an interview while we were in the Persian Gulf, flew back to the States, interviewed, and this time I got selected by NASA and joined them back in '95. Thank you. So this is what it's all about, coming out on launch day. To me, it felt just like coming downstairs on Christmas morning, you know, that anticipation. This is gonna be great. I can't wait. My second mission was to the International Space Station. That's what it looked like back then. And I show this picture because if you see me there, there's a guy on my left with his hand on my shoulder, and that's Yuri Malenchenko. You know, I grew up wanting to be a fighter pilot and serve my country. Yuri grew up in the Ukraine wanting to be a fighter pilot and serve his country. He's one of the guys that I thought on my first 2 cruises I was going to be going head-to-head with, trying to kill each other. Now, through the space program, we got to work together and try to build something instead of trying to kill each other. So that's what station looks like today, up there 24/7, 365, with crew on there since my last mission in 2000 that went there. But this has been my destination the last 2 times, the Hubble Space Telescope. That's my crew. Again, you know, an assembly of talent, different people with different talents, all working together for a common goal, the same things that I'd learned while I was at the fraternity, and those principles applied to get us all to do something. And this, we were the only flight after the Columbia mishap that didn't go to station. So in order to have a way to save us if something went wrong on ascent, we had to have another shuttle at the pad ready to go. And you realize I'm not just dependent on the 7 people on my crew, I'm dependent on the hundreds and thousands of people at the Cape who get the vehicles ready to go, the people at Johnson who trained us, the people at Goddard Space Flight who built the instruments for us to take the Hubble. It really is a team sport where you've got to work together to succeed in space.
All right, let's go!
Go for launch, GC. Go. Payloads. Go. Got it. Go. Fido. Go. Prop. Go. GNC. Go. Max. Go. Eagle. Go. Econ.
7, 6, 5, 4, 2, 1, and liftoff of Spaceship Atlantis. Final visit against the vision of Hubble into the deepest grandeur of our universe.
Houston, Atlanta, small program with the FCS channel.
Bypass across the board, Scooter, no action.
Okay, got LBO H ranging? I do. All right, I see him in the bucket. Mid 71.
Atlantis on its way, all 3 engines now throttling down as the area begins, as the vehicle passes through the area of maximum dynamic pressure.
Atlantis, Houston, no action on the MPF H2 LT.
Houston, we copy, no action.
Back at 104, Scooter.
Three, 103.
Auto. Okay, that all looks good.
Atlantis, Houston, you are go for orbit ops.
Houston, Atlantis, good words. Go for orbit ops. Thank you.
So you go around the Earth in 90 minutes, so every 45 minutes there's a sunrise or a sunset that you can look at. It's really beautiful, and you can kind of see a little bit of that blue right at the horizon line, which is the the width of the atmosphere, which always just impressed me, how big the Earth actually is and how little atmosphere there is that keeps us alive. It just makes me appreciate the planet and our system even more. We were doing spacewalks to repair the Hubble Space Telescope. Every day something would go wrong, and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be the commander of the crew that killed the Hubble Space Telescope, the most incredible scientific instrument we ever developed. But somehow, the team worked together, we figured out a way around it, and we got the job done. We put Hubble back out there, deployed it back in space. It's still working. It's been going great for the last 7 years. And there you can kind of see the blue atmosphere on the horizon of the planet in that shot of Hubble as we were saying goodbye. Of course, this is lunchtime on the shuttle. I'm eating my favorite, which is the shrimp cocktail inverted. So zero-G has its advantages at times, as you'll see here in this video.
That's Megan MacArthur, who is our flight engineer. And Megan, what are you doing now?
Well, we just finished the starboard survey of the orbiter TPS, and I'm going to get my lunch. So I go to this locker here that says MS2 meals on it, and I pull it out. It shows me all the food with the green dot. That's mine, that's in here. So I look up kind of what I want to eat. This is what I was looking for, ravioli.
Oh man, it was great.
Very tasty.
I just had some.
I think we should all take a moment to recognize the exemplary, damn near heroic effort played by Neil Armstrong's backup to this historic moonwalk. And of course, let's hear it for Jim Long.
All lights on.
No, he's still trying to get out. They just need somebody to wave him off.
So those are things, don't try that at home, as they say. But looking at the Earth going by is always a treat as you are up there recognizing spots like the Middle East. Make sure. Greece. And then it's time to get ready to come back and land. You see I've got my little package of peanuts, peanut M&Ms stuck up there. So that was the crew's idea, to get the commander to land safely by leaving him a little prize to get if we land successfully and don't crash.
Build inside at 10,000 feet. 10,000.
So the shuttle at this point is a glider from 12,000 miles away. Once you burn your engines, there's one thing you know for sure: we're going to hit the ground. The challenge is putting a runway underneath you.
Nappies look good.
Okay, Scooter, 7,000 feet.
Just like pilot, Raging.
Yep.
You can see a flight path marker in the middle of the screen with a diamond inside it. That's my guidance. I'm trying to track that. We declutter at 5,000 feet.
I'm decluttering.
And you'll see airspeed and altitude.
Next call is the speed brakes, Megan.
Roger at 3,000.
Okay.
The goal is to touch down at 200 knots right when altitude goes to 0.
Arm the gear.
I got a good light.
I'm in the pull-up.
In the pull. Max speed 317, Scooter.
Copy. Looking for the ball bar.
Okay. 700. I got a ball bar. 600. 500. 400.
Gear down.
On time.
Driving it down. Intercepting the ball bar.
Here's down.
270. Good, looking good. Good ball bar. 50, 250. 30, 230. 20, 220.
Right there.
10, 210. I agree. You're down.
Nice.
185.
E-rotating.
Good rate. 2, 2. Let's shoot it.
We're not going to make the center turn on.
Okay, Scooter, I see.
So I thought just close with a couple of pictures that Hubble took. This is called the Tadpole Galaxy, and it's kind of a neat picture because it's an interesting looking galaxy. But the other thing that amazes me about this picture is you look at all the other tiny dots of light in this picture. So It's a soda straw view of the night sky, and if you add up all those dots of light, that's 1,500 other galaxies in this one picture. 100 billion stars in every one of them. This is a soda straw view of the night sky. It's a big place out there. The universe is almost incomprehensibly huge when you add that all up, and it just still amazes me. This is the 25th anniversary Hubble image of a constellation. You know, we've had a SIG on the moon, John Young. I thought I was going to be the first SIG on Mars. We were going to go in 2015 or so, I thought, but it didn't work out. Now that challenge is out there to your generation to be the people that take us to Mars, to be the first SIG on Mars, to be that guy who's in that vehicle, going to a planet, standing there, looking up at the stars and thinking, wow, Sigma Chi really can reach for the stars. In hoc signo vinces. Thank you.